Today is an exciting day, not because we get to drive an all-new electric car, and not because we get to drive an all-new Porsche. Today is an exciting day because we get to drive this, Porsche's first all-electric car, the Taycan. 750 horsepower, more than 1,000 Nm of torque, and a 280-mile range. Is this the Tesla killer we've all been waiting for? Let's find out. Despite the fact it was only revealed at this month's Frankfurt Motor Show, we're already behind the wheel of Porsche's first full EV. It's based on a completely new platform, which will later underpin cars like Audi's sleek e-tron GT. On paper, the Porsche has more than enough power and performance to rival the very quickest Teslas, yet bosses insist there is more to the Taycan than straight line speed. That bespoke platform immediately elevates it above many of the latest luxury EVs. Cars like the Mercedes EQC, which are based on existing petrol or diesel models, feel heavy and cumbersome in a way the Taycan does not. Driving a Porsche Taycan only highlights the benefits of having a bespoke platform for electric vehicles. This car is built from the ground up with electrification in mind. Does it drive like a true Porsche? That is the big question. Well, body control is fantastic. That low shape and wide track really benefited through the corners, where it stays almost completely flat even on really hard bends. The steering has a nice weight to it, and while it isn't perhaps quite as communicative as a 911's, you're always sure exactly where the front wheels are turning. The four-wheel steer setup isn't quite as effective, however, with large undulations and holes in the road upsetting it mid-corner. And while it's impossible to make a proper judgment on ride comfort because these Swedish roads are so smooth, the three-chamber air suspension does tend to behave itself quite well. However, while refinement in the front is very good because you sit so far back from the front wheels, in the back it's a different story. There's loads of road noise, and while that might be good for sending the kids to sleep, adults aren't going to be quite as happy. The Taycan uses the same drive modes, Normal, Sport and Sport Plus, as a petrol-powered Porsche, albeit with an additional range setting that pushes the car into its most efficient state. Far from this being a slow and steady, power-restricted setup, the Saloon feels plenty quick enough for this to be most people's default drive mode. It'll cruise at motorway speeds using only the front wheels, maximising efficiency and thus distance it can travel on a single charge. Of course, if you dial things round to Sport or Sport Plus, the Taycan sharpens its settings and displays a heroic nimbleness for something weighing more than 2 tons. But with 750 horsepower and 1,050 Nm of torque, you lot want to know what this Turbo S is like in a straight line. So let's bring it to a stop. Left foot on the brake. Whoa! Acceleration is absolutely savage. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 2.8 seconds, and it absolutely flies. It leaves your internals somewhere back in the distance. In fact, if you do that too many times, and Porsche says that you can do it more than 10 times without the batteries degrading, you will feel really quite queasy. But it's not just from a standstill where that instant torque makes itself known. I'm doing, 50 miles an hour now, and if I floor the throttle, it just takes off. There's no denying the fact that it does feel quite like a Tesla in that regard, but the way it goes about delivering its pace and its speed just feels so much more controlled. It's a much better behaved car, and it definitely has Porsche DNA running right through its veins. There isn't the same adjustability on the throttle as you might get in a Panamera GTS, but the brakes have a delightful consistency. There's no step between the regenerative setup and the friction brakes, something that often plagues cars like this with an inconsistent feel. It has started to feel like every Porsche you got in felt the same, with the central analog rev counter and everything else laid out around it. But things are different for the Taycan because this is a car for the future. It represents what Porsche is going to become, not what it has been in the past. That means a fully digital dashboard. So instead of that rev counter in the middle, you've got 3 different displays with 2 outer displays which can be completely customised to your taste. In the middle, you've got a lovely wide touchscreen display. And like all Porsches, there's loads of functionality. You can have Apple CarPlay, you can position all the bits exactly where you want it, and it's really intuitive to use. To the right of that, or the left on right-hand drive cars, you've got another display exclusively for the passenger. Now, I don't really see the point in this. Ferrari's been doing it for a few years, but it basically allows the passenger to see stuff like speed, trip, nav information, as if they can't or won't access the screen in the middle. As if that's not enough, there's another screen on central stack that gives you access to things like the climate control. There's a battery readout with remaining range, and you can also open the boot, both front and back. All-round visibility isn't too bad. You've obviously got loads of cameras for parking and manoeuvring, and over-the-shoulder visibility isn't too bad considering the lower roofline. However, that lower roofline does affect visibility all the way out the back, which is just a small letterbox to view through. But let's be honest, this car is plenty quick enough that nobody is going to be tailgating you.
Porsche claims this top-spec Turbo S with its 93 kWh battery can do up to 256 miles on a single charge, according to the WLTP test regime. The less powerful Turbo ups this to 279 miles. We fell slightly short, but it's hard to complain as we were carrying an extra 250 kilos with all our camera kit and luggage. Around 220 miles should be an achievable figure in day-to-day driving.
We're making use of the super-fast Ionity charging network, which is rapidly expanding across Europe. There should be around 400 points installed by this time next year, but there's currently just 2 in the UK. It's really simple to use on the Taycan. You just swipe your hand under here, you grab the cable, plug it in, and then you use this charge card. Every Porsche Taycan owner will get one of these, and you simply swipe it like a contactless bank card on the machine, and it starts charging. The maximum rate of charge on one of these Ionity points is 350 kilowatts, but the Taycan can only take 270 kilowatts. Still, that's enough time for this car to go from 0 to 80% full in around 25 minutes. Time for a coffee.
Quality, fit and finish is excellent, as it should be on a car costing almost £140,000. Still, standard kit includes 18-way electrically operated sport seats, matrix LED lights, 2-zone climate control and Porsche communication management with online sat-nav. The options list is extensive with countless colours, wheel choices and interior trims. Ceramic brakes are just £581, but you'll pay £3,245 for the Burmester 3D surround sound system.
It's a bit of a challenge getting in here underneath this low roofline, but once you're here, it's actually a decent amount of room to stretch out. Now, I'm about 6 foot tall, but I've got quite a long body, which means my head does rub a little bit on the ceiling, but knee room is absolutely fine and foot space is pretty good, apart from the fact that there's not much place to slide your feet under the front seats. Now, every car gets 2 seats as standard, so you get a kind of tray in the middle here and a fold down armrest and some climate controls down the bottom. All in all, it's not actually too bad back here. Despite offering only around 370 litres, the boot is a decent size and a decent shape. It's not quite as practical as a Panamera because that car, the boot lid hinges from the top, whereas here it hinges from the bottom. Still, over a whole day and filming with 4 people, we fitted all our stuff and luggage in there, no problem at all. There's even 80 odd litres in the nose.
Our journey in the Taycan took us more than 300 miles from Gothenburg in Sweden to Copenhagen in Denmark on a mixture of urban and rural roads, as well as plenty of miles on pan-smooth motorway. Our car's range suffered due to those 4 passengers and the additional weight, with close to 180 to 200 miles on a charge. Use it daily with less luggage and you'll be looking at least 220 miles before needing to top up the Taycan's batteries.
Porsche may not have been the first, but by biding its time, it has made one of the finest and most complete electric cars on the planet. Price might be a limiting factor to begin with, but if the entry-level models are anything like as good as this top-spec Turbo S, then the Taycan can go from being a great electric car to being a great car, full stop.
If that's not enough, click the video window on the left for a review of the all-electric Mercedes EQC. Or, for more Porsche, click the window on the right for a drive of the new Cayenne Coupe. Click the Auto Express logo to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video.